Hi there, plungers. Lovely to see you. Sorry we can't see you in person, but so we've decided instead to video our story for today. But this one requires your help. You need to join in for this. So what we're going to do is that when we say certain key words in this story, you need to act them out. So let's find out what those key words are. The first one is God, and for this, you stand up and point to the sky. Next one is river. For this one, you can use your hands to make a sort of swishy movement, or perhaps even a kind of Mexican wave. Swish. The next word we're going to use is altar. For this one, you're going to go on your hands and knees, and your back is really straight for this one. So let's see, altar. Great. Next one is sacrifice. For this one, you stand up and put your arms out in a cross position. Great. And then finally, we have worship. And for this one, you kneel on the floor and pray with your hands. Great. Okay, we're just going to run through those once more before we start the story. So let's see. First one was God. Brilliant. River. Altar. Sacrifice. And finally, worship. Brilliant. Okay, we're ready to start our story. Would our storytellers like to stand up? Okay, so here we go. When the Jews came back from Egypt to their promised land, it took them a long time to get the land back from the people who'd moved in whilst they were living in Egypt. The Jews were divided into 12 tribes, and each tribe had been given an area of the land to live in. Most of the tribes lived on the west side of the Jordan River. Swish. But two of them lived on the east of the river. The Jews worshipped God in the tabernacle, and that was where they made sacrifices. They didn't have any other altars anywhere. But then the Jews who lived to the west of the River Jordan had a dreadful rumour. The Jews who lived to the east of the river had built an altar. The Jews on the west of the river couldn't believe their ears. God had forbidden them to worship anyone but him, and he could only be worshipped in the tabernacle. The Jews who lived on the west side of the river decided that they should fight the Jews on the east side and make them take the altar away again. They thought that the Jews who lived on the west of the river were starting to worship other gods. They were afraid that God would punish all the Jews because of it. But while the soldiers started getting ready to fight, the Jews sent Phinehas, the son of the priest, to talk to the Jews who lived on the east side of the river. Phinehas spoke to them sternly. "Why have you built an altar?" he asked. "You know that God has forbidden us to make sacrifices to other gods. We should all worship at the tabernacle. Take this altar down, or we will have to fight against you." But then the Jews who lived on the east side of the river explained, "We live on the other side of the river, and we were afraid that in the future you might forget that we're from the same family and worship the same God. We have made an altar here as a reminder to all of us. It will remind us about God and all that he has done for us. And it will remind you who lives on the other side of the river. We also have a right to worship God. We are his children too. Phineas was happy with the answer. He realised that he'd been wrong and quickly went back over the river to tell the soldiers that they didn't need to fight again. It was all right. The altar wasn't a real altar that was going to be used. It was a reminder of God. So Phineas managed to stop a conflict because he came to listen to the other side's story. Had he not gone to talk to the Jews on the east side of the river, there could have been a whole-scale war between the different Jewish tribes. We can learn from this story that we should always make sure that we find out everything we can before we get upset and start a conflict. So sometimes we get into conflict with people because we don't know the full facts of the case. Our story today was an example of how conflict could be avoided because the facts were learned and people didn't jump to conclusions.